All right, our first guest is a gentleman and a fine actor who's currently starring in Twice in a Lifetime, which you can see on Saturdays at 7 p.m. on CTV. Here with his autobiography, That's What I Am, please welcome Al Waxman. Al, you've had,
I brought you a little gift.
some Jelly Bellies.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because in your green room down there, you got green and red candies apropos of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But the season also includes, can you read that? Hanukkah.
Hanukkah mix.
Right, so
Yes.
I brought you some blue
It's
and white
a nice
ones.
little Hanukkah mix. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, you could,
I'll enjoy those.
yeah, you open
Thank
them
you.
up. I like
By
it.
the way, those are not red and green candies downstairs. We're having a mouse problem.
My
hope
glad,
you didn't
I'm
eat any of
glad I
those.
didn't eat any red and green candy.
You bet. All right. You have had, I read the book, and I thought I knew a lot
Thank
about
you.
you, but you have had a marvelous career and varied as well. I got to ask you something. You've had opportunities all over the world. Why have you stayed in Canada?
I love it here. It's my home.
All right. Now, Al, I wasn't trying to kick you out. I was just asking.
No, but I'm not waving a flag when I say that. It's
Yeah.
a very selfish reason. I'm not.
Mhm.
I love where I live, and where I live is part of what I am. It's why I call the book That's What I Am.
Right.
And
right.
part of what I am as an artist, as anything I do in the arts, is my nationality, which is Canadian.
Now, to prove you're not waving the flag, do the residuals from Cagney and Lacey come in American?
They sure as hell do.
Okay.
But I have to tell you about those residuals.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about those residuals.
Yeah.
You know, the more those things play, then they diminish over the years. The more
Right.
they diminish. And I get checks now for 88 cents, 93 cents.
Right.
And my wife says, why don't you frame that and put it on the wall? I say, are you kidding, honey? That's 93 cents American. That's over a Canadian dollar.
Yeah,
What the hell's the matter?
Yeah, there's no
Anyway,
way.
one day I got a check. I said, honey, this one I'm framing.
Yeah.
It's on the wall. I hope to have you over sometime.
I'd love to
You
come
look
over.
at it.
Right.
It's a 7-cent check. And I think I must have screwed up their whole accounting process because it's on my wall. It wasn't cashed. 7 cents.
But there was, I read the book, Al, there was a time when you would have run to the bank with that baby.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, when you were
Yeah.
struggling in the beginning.
Well, I think that's the nature of our business. And I think once you learn that the process is never ending, which is essentially, I think, what the book is about, that it's a never ending process. And I think one of the important things that I learned some time ago is that making it is a never ending process of making it.
Right.
And only when you understand that have you got it made.
Right. And you're never going to retire, are you?
Never.
Well.
That's why when you asked me the questions, when you said I've had a pretty good career, I ain't through yet.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
for a long way. But
Are you surprised? Are you surprised at the impact that King of Kensington had on the entire country and generations that have come since the show went into permanent hiatus? Are you surprised at the effect it's had on people?
I guess I have to give a diplomatic answer there. On the one hand, yes, I am surprised, but on the other hand, I was enormously confident
Yeah.
about what
Yeah.
the show could and would do. I knew
Yeah.
we would touch a chord with audiences across the country.
Uh-huh.
I knew that there was something every man about that character that people could relate to.
Right.
And the idea of a commoner being a king is somehow a very Canadian concept.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, you've gone on, after that show was, after you finished with that show, you went on to Cagney and Lacey in the U.S., and there was a very interesting period there in the book where you discussed having your family here in Toronto and having to go back and forth to Los Angeles. How often were you away from home when you were doing that?
My kids are still flying on the points I accumulated during the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I was away most of the time. When I was acting, I would fly back 3 or 4 times a month.
Right.
When I was directing, because you had to prep, shoot, and post, as well as act in those episodes, I would be
Right.
staying there for 6 weeks at a time, and then my wife and kids might come and visit me.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's the other way around. I tried very hard not to be a telephone dad, although I did spend a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah.
And I would fly back and forth. I once flew home one night just to help my kid with a mathematics problem he had, and I flew back the next day to be on the set.
No kidding.
Fortunately for
Would it be
me-
a drag if you got it wrong anyway?
Well, I got that right, but fortunately for me, the problems got too difficult.
Yeah.
so I didn't fly back.
Okay. Once they got into calculus, that was it.
Forget it.
You're on your own, honey. I'm not coming home.
home.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Now, you met a lot of people over the years, not the least of which was Sammy Davis Jr. And that's a great story in the book. Why don't you relate that?
Well, I was very lucky to have some friends and publicists who were able to connect me with people. And when I stayed in L.A. on a weekend instead of coming home, in other words, if I was shooting on the Friday and on the Monday, I wouldn't fly home. And I would either go, and this sounds like name dropping, but I swear I did it for the purpose of seeing a brand new movie. I would either go to Hefner's house, Hugh Hefner, on a Sunday night, because he had a first-run movie that hadn't played theaters yet, which he would show his guests, and I was on his guest list. Or I would do the same with Sammy Davis, and I was just honored to be on his, not a guest list, he would just do it periodically.
Yeah.
And he'd have only 6 or 8 people.
Yeah.
Whereas Hefner would have a crowd of 30 or 40. Anyway, when I was at Sammy's house, amongst his many talents was that he could cook.
Right.
He was a very good cook. Anyway, whenever something exciting would happen to me, I'd phone home and I'd call Sarah.
Yeah.
And
so they're back here in Toronto, and
right.
you decide, hey, this is a great time to phone.
So I would phone Sarah. I think I phoned Sarah about 11 o'clock at night in L.A., about 2 a.m. And she would really get angry at me because then she couldn't fall asleep again.
Mm-hmm.
So before she got angry, I said, honey, I want you to talk to somebody. I put Sammy on the phone. Yeah. And he started talking to her, and she knew that was not an imitation. That was really Sammy.
Is that right? Huh? Yeah.
And she was elated, and when she came to L.A., we were both invited to dinner again, and he was very nervous about cooking for Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
your wife is a renowned cook.
Well, she's a food reviewer and restaurant reviewer, and so he was concerned about how well his cooking went over.
Yeah.
A charming, super talented man. And I must tell you, one of the things that
your wife would never go to someone's house and review the meal the next day in the paper.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people don't want to invite us because they're afraid they're going to be assessed. Okay. And we think, well, how come they don't like us? We don't get invited for dinner.
So what's her byline Sundays? Never go to the Smiths.
Yeah. I was about to tell you, with Sammy, I had to leave early because I was filming on the Monday.
Yeah.
And when I left, he walked me to the door, and I thought of all the times I'd seen him on television, way back to Ed Sullivan.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, and he was a tiny little thing, barely bigger than those long, skinny cigarettes he used to smoke.
Yeah.
I looked at him, and I said, you're the tallest talent I've ever met in my life.
Right, huh? Yeah, he was major.
I tell you something that was interesting, though, Mike. He came over and he hugged me as though this super talented man needed to hear something like that, just the way you and I need to hear that. It was good knowing him.
Yeah. He was a great all right, that's for sure. Now, when you wrote the book, did you use a computer?
No, I'm computer illiterate.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm glad you're giving me this cup is someone in my house, not me, put this into the dishwasher, and apparently this thing came off.
Yeah.
Now I got it as a black cup.
Yeah.
I wash dishes.
No matter how many times you visit the show, it's 1 cup per guest. You're not getting another one.
Oh, what do you think I came back for? No,
the money.
I want the cup. Anyway, I was about to tell you, I don't use a dishwasher. I don't use a microwave.
Right.
I'm computer illiterate. I wash dishes by hand, and I write books by longhand.
Wow.
Write books. Is that presumptuous? I wrote my 1 book by longhand.
Are you serious? This thing's about 600 pages long.
431 or 2, I think, something like that.
I'm surprised you can even hold that cup. That's amazing.
There you go.
That's the old-fashioned way, but it's a great book. I've got to tell you,
so much.
You really captured your own life, and the essence of it all is quite interesting, and I hope you do very well with it.
Thank you very much.
All right, I hope you pop by again. Al Waxman, ladies and gentlemen. Jan Wong after these messages.